All right, ready to unlock some seriously timeless wisdom? We're going deep on how to win friends and influence people today.
We're talking less about skimming the surface and more about unearthing those aha moments, those insights that can truly transform how you connect with, well, everyone.
It's classic for a reason, right? It's
Yeah,
like that light bulb moment when you realize it's not about being right. It's about understanding where the other person is coming from.
precisely. Carnegie was onto something fundamental about human nature. He argues that people are driven by their own desires that need to feel important.
It's so true. Even when it seems completely illogical, there's always a reason behind someone's behavior.
Always.
It reminds me of that story about Two Gun Crowley, the notorious criminal.
Oh, yes.
Even facing execution, he refused to admit any fault. This is what I get for defending myself, he said.
Classic. It just shows you that deeply ingrained need for self-justification.
It's incredible.
Understanding that, though, it's absolutely crucial for navigating any interaction, especially those tricky ones.
Because if we go into a conversation trying to prove someone wrong,
Oh, you're setting yourself up for a losing battle, that's for sure.
100%. So what's the alternative?
Well, Carnegie tells this great story about a man facing a tax audit. Instead of arguing his case, you know what he did? He praised the inspector's expertise. He even expressed admiration for the inspector's job. Can you imagine?
Wait, seriously. And that worked.
It completely disarmed the situation. The inspector became incredibly helpful. You see, by appealing to that desire for recognition, he achieved a far better outcome than if he had tried to win the argument.
That's brilliant. It's like that saying, you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Exactly. And that leads us to one of Carnegie's most powerful principles, genuine appreciation.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
He understood that people crave sincere praise, like really crave it. It's a fundamental human need.
I can see that.
And it's more than just a pat on the back. It's about truly seeing and acknowledging someone for their inherent value, you know?
Right, and it's about the little things too, right? Like, wouldn't you rather receive a specific compliment about your work ethic than just a generic good job?
100%. It shows that the other person is truly paying attention. And that level of attention, that genuine appreciation, it can have a profound impact.
There's that story Carnegie tells about the man who admired an older woman's house. Just a simple compliment about her home, and she ended up gifting him her Packard, her car. I mean, it just shows you a little appreciation can go a long way.
Absolutely. It all comes back to that inherent human need for recognition. But, Carnegie goes beyond just giving compliments. He also talks about the importance of unleashing the potential in others.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do that? Because we're all carrying around potential, right?
We are, and Carnegie truly believed that by showing genuine interest in others, asking questions, really acknowledging their achievements, we could actually inspire them to reach new heights.
So it's not just about praising what they've done, it's about encouraging what they could become.
Precisely. And, Carnegie himself used this principle early in his own career. He'd write to these incredibly famous, successful people, expressing his admiration for their work, asking them these really thoughtful questions.
Wait, like fan mail?
Well, not exactly fan mail. He was very strategic, you see. He was genuinely interested in learning from these people. And you know what?
Not.
A lot of them actually responded.
Wow.
They were impressed by his sincere interest, his insightful questions.
So by showing genuine interest, by taking the time to acknowledge their accomplishments, he actually built relationships with some pretty influential figures.
Exactly. And, those relationships, they opened doors for him, led to speaking engagements, all sorts of collaborations. He was even invited to some of their homes.
That's amazing. Really shows you the power of recognizing potential, nurturing it in others. But let's be real, it's not always easy to stay positive, to focus on that potential. We all mess up. So how does Carnegie say we should handle those moments when things go wrong?
He has a strategy, and it's actually incredibly effective. Ready for it.
Okay, yeah. Lay it on me.
Turn the situation around by acknowledging your own mistakes first.
Oh, interesting. So instead of getting defensive, instead of pointing fingers, you just own up to your part in it.
Exactly. It instantly disarms the other person because you're demonstrating humility.
Okay, I can see how that would totally change the tone of a conversation. Instead of feeling attacked, the other person is met with, like, vulnerability.
Exactly. And it appeals to their sense of fairness. Carnegie tells this story about a man who was about to be fired for making a really costly mistake. Oh, no.
Yeah, a big one. But instead of making excuses, he went straight to the client, admitted his error, and then he said,
What do you say?
He said, "You can adjust the bill as you see fit."
Wow. That's kind of ballsy, putting yourself at their mercy like that.
It is,
Hmm.
but it also shows a deep sense of accountability.
Right.
And the client. They were so impressed by his honesty
Oh, I bet.
that they not only kept him on, they actually gave him more responsibility.
See, this is what I love about Carnegie. He gives you these actionable strategies that, on the surface, might seem a little counterintuitive,
Right.
but they work because it's not about manipulation. It's about genuinely understanding human nature and then using that understanding to navigate relationships in a way that is, well, just better, more effective. It's what makes his work so enduring, right? These principles, they're timeless because they speak to those fundamental desires we all share as human beings. That need for connection, for appreciation, for understanding.
Now, speaking of understanding, Carnegie was a big believer in really listening to what others had to say.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean really listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk,
Yeah.
but truly absorbing their perspective.
He called it listening with your whole heart. He believed that giving someone your undivided attention,
Oh, yeah.
it was one of the greatest compliments you could give.
Which is something that feels so rare these days.
It really is.
Everyone's just so glued to their phones, their to-do lists,
Yeah.
that running commentary in their own heads
It's true.
takes effort.
It does, but it is so worth it. Because when you truly listen, when you really make someone feel heard, you're creating a space for real connection, for understanding. And isn't that what we all want?
Absolutely. I love that quote from Maya Angelou. She said, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel."
Exactly. And that feeling of being heard, being understood, it's incredibly powerful. Can turn even a simple conversation into a really meaningful interaction, one that deepens the relationship.
Which is really what Carnegie is all about, isn't it?
It is.
Strengthening those connections, improving the way we communicate, and ultimately living a more fulfilling life because of it.
Absolutely. He reminds us that we are all works in progress, and we all have that potential to become better partners, better colleagues, better friends.
There's that line from the book, I love this. He says, "We are making use of only a small part of our resources."
So true.
Meaning there's so much more we're capable of if we can just tap into that potential.
And that's the exciting part, right? It's about embracing that mindset of continuous learning, of growth.
So instead of getting stuck in our old ways of doing things, we can choose to approach every interaction as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to connect on a deeper level.
And sometimes it really is the smallest changes that end up having the biggest impact.
Totally. It's not about some big personality overhaul. It's about those small, consistent actions that build up over time. It's like a ripple effect almost.
Right.
Like one small act of kindness can completely change someone's day. And then they go and do something kind for somebody else, and it keeps going.
Exactly. It's that power we all have to make a positive impact,
Right.
one interaction at a time.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive on how to win friends and influence people, what's one principle, one thing that really stood out to you from Carnegie?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's got to be that emphasis on understanding different perspectives.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in our own heads,
Yeah.
our own opinions, but taking the time to really listen, to try and understand where someone else is coming from, even if you don't agree. It just opens up this whole other level of communication, of connection.
Yeah, totally. Like that saying, walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Exactly.
It's not always easy, though, is it?
It's not, but I think so much of it comes down to being present, intentional, in those moments. And honestly, I think that's something we could all use a little more of,
100%.
especially these days.
It's a crazy world out there, fast-paced, distracting, taking the time to slow down, to listen, really connect with the people around us. So important.
So anyone listening right now who's thinking, okay, this is all great, but how do I put this into practice? What's one small action they can take today to start incorporating these ideas, this wisdom, into their own lives?
Oh, I love that. Okay, how about this? Instead of, criticizing a coworker for being late to a meeting, try acknowledging their dedication when they stay late to finish a project.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Turning a potential negative into a positive. Exactly. It's about shifting that focus, looking for those opportunities to appreciate, to encourage, rather than criticize.
And you never know, that little act of appreciation, that could make their whole day. Who knows what kind of ripple effect that could create?
It's amazing how powerful it can be.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it? That need we all have to feel appreciated, recognized, understood.
And when we can give that gift to someone else, well, not only are we enriching their lives, but we're also enriching our own.
Beautifully said. Well, there you have it, a deep dive into the timeless wisdom of Dale Carnegie.
His work, those principles, they still resonate today because they tap into something so fundamental, so essentially human.
That desire to connect, to
Yeah.
be understood, to build those relationships that really matter.
Exactly.
So as you go about your day today, remember that power you have to make a positive impact. Remember the importance of genuine appreciation, of understanding perspectives that might be different from your own.
Every interaction, every conversation, it's an opportunity.
It really is. The power to make a difference, it's in your hands. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.